have to play to win.
For the love of God and country.
Ignorance is bliss.
You can't take it with you.
Good night.
What's your emergency?
I want to share with you two of probably the most important teachings you can learn on the path to a life worth living. And this is kind of the examined life, coming from two different men who lived in two different eras and lived in two different cultures. Let's take Buddha first. He said, in this world, hate never yet dispelled hate. Only love dispels hate. Now, there probably isn't any of you sitting out there listening to this that would intellectually agree with that and say, you know, that would be nice to believe in. I wish that were true. But when it comes to really living that, no way. We love revenge way too much. And then you have the second comment that Jesus made. Very interesting. He said, live in the world, but don't let the world live in you. Well, now we're talking about that delicate balance. So how do we not let hate carry us away, tear our life apart, and let love live us, while all the time we're living in this world and not letting the world's stuff get into us and cause us a great deal of pain and suffering? That's the art of life, and I'm going to give it to you. It's really simple. In fact, getting simple is what it's all about. I notice in my counseling and my work with people one-to-one that people who are deeply complicated are usually pretty smart people. They're very, very smart, and they're cunning even, but they're not intelligent. A person becomes intelligent when they can add love to the mix of their life, when they can feel love in the mix of themselves, and where love influences them so deeply that their thoughts have little or no power over them whatsoever. So that means you can live in this world, eat, drink, have intercourse, make money, have families, do all the things that human beings do, but all the time not let all those things serve the purpose of your hatred, which is exactly what Buddha is talking about. Our whole life, whether we know it or not, whether we want to recognize it or not, is a matter of a spiritual practice. You bring love into anything: washing a toilet, wiping your nose, cleaning the house, cleaning up dog poop. It doesn't matter what it is. You bring your practice to the mundane things of your daily worldly life, and you have brought meaning to your life because you're doing it out of compassion and love. You're not doing it because it's a chore, or you're trying to prove something to someone, or you're trying to get the admiration of someone. You are incorporating your whole life in the art of love. Hate never yet dispelled hate in this world. Only love dispels hate. Yet we think that power plays that we do on each other socially, with our thoughts and with our cunning, with our wit, trying to get people to do what we want them to do, to pressure them, to leverage them into our will, is a pretty smart thing to do. To come to a place where love oversees hate, it means I have to take the step inside that most people are so afraid of: thy will be done. I'm going to say this a great deal in this series. You have to be willing to let things happen the way they need to happen. While you and I don't let the world in us, we stay very focused in the love that lives within us. And we never allow our mind, our body, to be instruments of hatred, rather of resonating to let go, to forgiveness, to have the empathy and the compassion to allow people to be what they are, to be honest with them as far as we can go, and then to allow love to overtake us. It's a hard line to follow. You're just always balancing on that. It's always edgy. You're going to make mistakes, and it's going to be at times a little arduous because you're so complicated. Most of you are pretty smart people. 2 and 2 makes 4, but you're not questioning why 2 and 2 as 4 exists at all. And that's really what it's all about, to be able to look at not 2 and 2, but why the equation is even there in the first place. Now you're living outside the box of your fears, and you're living in the world, but you're not letting the world live in you. I've been teaching a long time, trying to help people understand the simplest forms of compassion and love, the simplest forms of what it means to walk that line, to live in the world, but not let the world make evaluations and judgments and decisions for me, where I become harsh and cruel, where I think that my survival is more important than love itself. Actually, what it boils down to is I have to come to the point where I'm willing to live my life up to the point where only love makes sense to me, where love is the only thing that matters. Real love, not emotional love, unconditional real love inside of me. And I must be willing at any point to lose face, desire, ambition, and pride. And maybe I won't get all the things I want, but I will have a life worth living. So let's talk a little bit about what Jesus might have meant when he said, don't let the world live in you. Live in the world, but don't let it live in you. What does he mean? Well, he's talking about the ways of the culture, the society, you know, the way we are with each other, the way we are with ourselves. We're very defensive, we're mean-spirited, it's dog eat dog, it's all about our survival, cheating, lying, stealing, you know, that whole thing. The thing that everybody dislikes and yet that everybody does. At one point or another, we've all done it. So how do we not let the world live in us? How do we live with the value of the quality of our spirit, the love of our heart, and yet in a world that is very cold and cruel? You know, I'm going to say something here that's very difficult to talk about. Sometimes you just got to sacrifice not having as much as someone else or even what you want, because you just can't be cruel enough. You just can't be mean-spirited enough to do it. You just see the futility of your own cruelty, your own anger, your own fear. And you look at it and you go, you know, it's just not worth it. That's when you start to fall into your destiny. You find the destiny of your own life, and every human being in their heart has a destiny. In your brain, you have your fate. In your body, you have your karma. But in your heart, you have your fate. And when you come to the fate of your life and then pass through it to your destiny, now something meaningful has happened. You've started to look at life differently. Why? Because you're no longer evaluating your survival and competing with another person, rubbing up against the conflict of it all and making problems with your life. Never take the values of the society and bring them into yourself and say, well, I'll govern myself with an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That's the way most of us are. We live an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth to such a degree that we are at odds with ourselves as well as with our own life. To live in the world means you live here. You're going to eat, you're going to poop, you're going to buy, you're going to put on clothes, you're going to do things that everyone does. Educate yourself, the whole thing. It's a human body, human life experience. But never be fooled by it. Never make it a race, a competition. Make it an evolution. You're moving out of your body. You're moving out of your fears. You're moving out of your anger all the time. You're doing anything you're doing because you're evolving in the quality of your spirit, which means you're putting love ahead of your comfort, your need for security, and your fear of what might happen to you. We could all be afraid of so many things that could happen to us in the course of a lifetime. I mean, think of all the things that could happen. Most people do. In fact, that's all they think about is, well, what about this? And what about that? What if this happens to me? Anything can happen. You can't worry about that. Follow your destiny in your heart. Get rooted in your heart. Stay focused in the heart of your being, living in love at all costs to whatever it is your ego's saying. If you do that, bad things are going to happen to you. If you do that, if you don't do this, then they're going to get that and you're not going to have enough to live for the rest of, there's all sorts of ugly rumors going around in our heads. Stay with your heart. Trust it. Don't ever look outside at the world and what's going on out there. Stay focused in your heart, your soul. If you can do that through your practice of meditation and focusing your attention beyond the fears that you might be having at the moment and your insecurity of being human, and all human beings are insecure. Everyone is. Don't ever let anybody tell you, oh, I'm confident, whatever's going on, I can handle anything. No, you can't. Nobody can. Everybody's afraid of something. Stay out of the fear of your mind and take the whole attitude. I trust that whatever my heart tells me, wherever my heart leads me, my heart of hearts, not my emotions, not my passions, my heart of hearts, my silence, my energy in my silence, wherever it takes me is my destiny. And you follow that destiny with every ounce of your energy, with all of your heart, your soul, your strength, as the Master said. And you never entertain the whole idea of the culture and the society and what the values are there and what you'll be leaving there and what other people think of you. Hey, nobody likes you anyway. Remember that one? If you can live in the value of your heart, you'll find that life is more than worth living. It is you that's living.
I have learned a lot about the fear within inside of myself that has kept me from doing so much. There's a lot of fear that people don't even want to recognize about themselves. And when you go into a meditation, it's not about covering up that fear, it's about seeing it and accepting it and letting it go.
I love doing that. I could do that all day. I want to end this on a note that I hope is very helpful to you. When Buddha said, in this world, hate never yet dispelled hate, only love dispels hate, he was talking about something that was really spectacular, very, very important. He was talking about consciousness. He was talking about overcoming our thinking and achieving a sense of consciousness. Most people, when you talk to them about love, they think they know everything there is about love. Everything. If you say love to them, they go, oh, I know what that is, I know what that is. And yet, when you look at their life, or you get into the way they live, there's no love there at all. In fact, you find out there's no interest in love at all. It's just about affection. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. No love at all. Love is unconditional. There's no other type. And people like to think they can live unconditional love and live in the world. They can't. You can live within love, but you can't bring that into the world. Love is a state of being. It's a state of consciousness. It's very prevalent in a place like this. It's a very quiet place. There's no one here. It's kind of desolate. It's kind of beautiful. Love is like that. The ego cannot contain love. It cannot withstand it. And to really know love, I'm going to have to sacrifice a lot of things in my life. My pride, my vanity, my knowledge, my belief, everything that I cherish. I know very few people that would be willing to give up everything for the sake of love. Very few people. My students, they get to a certain point and they'll start growing and growing through the practice and their meditations, keeping the way they're going, and then immediately the world takes over in them. Their psychology says, if you go much further than that, people aren't going to understand you. You're going to be alone. Nobody's going to like you. And that's where people stop because they're afraid to be alone. The sacrifice you might need to make in your life is not to have all the people around you understand you. You may find people find you odd or strange, but for the sake of love, what else have you got to live for? Do you want to live like the rest of the world lives, in anger and fear, in hatred? I think a lot of people do, frankly. I don't have a lot of faith in humankind. I have a deep kind of trust in the divinity in every one of us. I do. That I really do. But when it comes to humanity, people will lie and cheat and steal and do all sorts of ugly things in the name of God, in the name of righteousness, just so they can be whatever they imagine themselves to be and get the affection that they really need for their ego to keep their pain body all together. It's a sacrifice to do a spiritual practice. Frankly speaking, most people don't want to do it. It's easier to read a book or to believe that the earth is going to be new or that there is a power in something other than yourself, higher, lower, whatever you want to believe in. Reading books does not make one spiritual. It just doesn't. What makes one spiritual? The recognition of love and the sacrifice of hate. Most of my thoughts, if I am honest with you, are based in hate. Because they're always looking at right over wrong. They're always dividing everything into two groups. What is desirable, what is undesirable. And once the mind catches hold of what it thinks is desirable, it will go on and on and on that way to nauseam, running your life right into into death. And there will be no joy in Mudville for over that. So let me give you an alternative. Meditate. Meditate. Practice a little meditation. You don't have to be great at it. Take 15 minutes a day. Practice watching your breath go in and out. Drop your thinking. Learn how to breathe, how to meditate, how to allow tone and texture to transform you. And then do a little bit of diet work, as I like to call it. Give up some of your thought. Take a rest from the way you love yourself, the way you think of yourself. You see, most people don't like themselves at all. They could care less about themselves. They love themselves according to committee, how everybody else loves them. And if everybody else thinks they're really wonderful people, then they think they're wonderful. But the way to really live your life maybe is as one, a single whole inside of your heart and soul. Now that, my friend, is a life worth living.
This is a unique experience for us, and it's been wonderful. It's brought us closer together.
Learning more about yourself and about each other and how we can be more open with each other, how we can be more open with anybody we meet.
For me, it's moving out of the box. It's going back to my childhood. It's letting things out. It's playing again.
Which would you choose, love or hate? Your survival or maybe compassion? Getting vengeance on your enemy or giving them forgiveness? These are all very important decisions we make in the course of our lifetime. And each and every one of them brings us to our fate and our karma one way or the other. Most people live in fate. They live in the fate of their desires, their ambition, their pride, seeking to create a life that they think will make them happy, give them a sense of who and what they are. Do you realize how many of us don't know who we are and don't even care? And I'm not talking about our personage, our skin, and our, family tree. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about really finding out who we are, the way we are, and the manner of our own spirit. That is something that is very important. You are a soul that is having a human experience, as it were. And as you begin to understand that more and more and live like that, you'll start to realize, wow, if I choose love and forgiveness, which always look like the low path to my ego, my vanity, my pride, my pain body, it's actually the higher path to my heart and my soul and my meaning in life. That's where it all counts. Most people aren't willing to sacrifice their complexities for their simplicity. And that's why we find the world the way it is. It isn't that we're bad people. It's just that we have forgotten who we are. And frankly speaking, we're so entertained and so bored at the same time. We don't even care who we are anymore. The way my audiences have changed over the years is quite drastic. Most people are just looking for the quick out instead of the meaning that lives within. I'm grateful you were here this week. I hope you'll join me next week. Please forgive me. Namaste. Master, what is the way to liberation?
Show me your chains.
What?
Show me your chains.
I don't have any chains.
Then why are you seeking liberation?
Things are not what they seem with you.
Nor are they otherwise. You know, years ago, my master told me to do the opposite of whatever I tell you. So I didn't.
Well, if you listen to what Buddha is teaching, then, oh, here they come. Let me get my gun out. Gun. And that's the point. What is really, really important? A lot of the things that are... You have hair growing on your hands? My whole crew deserted me. Did you do that as a kid? Throw water?
Hello. I like Sacramento wine.
What a shoot.